Man screams while something drags him into the cage. The workers panic. Muldown shouts for the gate to close, but it's already too late. Before Jurassic Park became a dream, it was already a warning. And at the center of it all was a man named John Hammond, an old billionaire dressed entirely in white who spoke about the future like it was already standing right in front of him. The accident worries the investors behind the park, especially after Hammond's worker dies before Jurassic Park has even opened to the public. Far away from the island, paleontologist Alan Grant spends his days buried in the dirt alongside Ellie, trying to piece together creatures that disappeared millions of years ago. To Grant, dinosaurs belong in the past. Until Hammond suddenly appears at the excavation site, he offers to fund their research for years, but only if they agree to visit the island. Grant hesitates at first, but Hammond knows exactly how to convince them, an offer he cannot refuse. That's all it takes. Grant takes the offer. The helicopter ride to Nibbler Island is rough. As the helicopter approaches the island, the jungle slowly opens up beneath them, an entire world built in secret. Then suddenly, Grant turns his head and everything changes. A massive brachiosaurus arises above the trees. Grant pulls off his glasses in complete disbelief, then turns Ellie's head and she stares at the animal, almost unable to process what she's seeing. For the first time in human history, extinct creatures walk the earth again. The dinosaurs move peacefully across the field while Hammond watches proudly like a man finally proving the world wrong. And maybe that's what makes John Hammond such an interesting character. He doesn't see himself as a businessman, he sees himself as a dreamer. Someone trying to give people something unforgettable. The group arrives at the visitor center where Hammond proudly welcomes them like a man unveiling the future itself. Everything about Jurassic Park feels expensive. Hammond explains that his scientists discovered dinosaurs' DNA inside mosquitoes trapped in amber millions of years ago. The DNA was incomplete, so they filled the missing gaps using frog DNA. Hammond talks about it with complete confidence, like none of this could ever go wrong. And maybe that's the first real warning sign in the movie. Not the dinosaurs, not the technology, but the confidence, because people become dangerous the moment they stop respecting how complicated life really is. Later that day, the group watches a newborn velociraptor hatch inside the laboratory. Hammond smiles watching the baby dinosaur open its eyes for the first time, like a proud father looking at his creation. But the mood changes quickly once they learn the raptors are extremely aggressive and must remain isolated from the rest of the pack. The tour continues through the island while storms slowly begin forming in the distance. The vehicle passes empty enclosures, dinosaurs refusing to appear on command, and little by little Jurassic Park starts feeling less like nature and more like a giant performance struggling to hold itself together. Hammond didn't just create dinosaurs, he created an experience, a product. A place designed to amaze people so much that they stop thinking about how dangerous any of this actually is. That's probably why the park works so well at first. Because Jurassic Park feels magical, beautiful even, like the future finally arrived. The moment people see dinosaurs walking again, everything else almost disappears behind the excitement. The risks, the warnings, the fact that nobody really knows what happens once creatures like this exist again. And maybe that's what Jurassic Park understands so well. Sometimes the most dangerous ideas don't look dangerous at all. Sometimes they look revolutionary, like something the world simply has to see. Later that night, the group sits together for dinner while Hammond explains his vision for the future of the park. Families around the world visit the island, children seeing dinosaurs with their own eyes, a future nobody else believed was even possible. But Malcolm isn't impressed. He argues that scientists became so focused on whether they could create dinosaurs, they never really stopped to ask whether they should. Later, while driving around the park, the storm finally reaches the island. Rain crashes against the fences while workers rush through the park trying to shut the systems down safely. But hidden inside the control room, Dennis Nedry is already prepping his own plan. Nedry is Jurassic Park's lead programmer, the man responsible for keeping almost the entire park running. While Hammond talks endlessly about changing the world, Nedry only sees one thing: money. A rival company has offered him millions to steal dinosaur embryos directly from the island. So while everyone else focuses on surviving the storm, Nedry shuts down the park security system long enough to escape with the embryos hidden inside a shaving cream can. And suddenly, everything begins falling apart at once. The fences lose power, the cameras shut off, the vehicles stop moving, communication dies across the island. At first, the visitors don't realize how serious the situation is. They sit trapped inside the tour vehicles while heavy rain pours across the road. Then the Tyrannosaurus enclosure goes silent. The goat hanging inside the paddock suddenly disappears. Then the water inside Lex's cup begins to shake. Tiny vibrations, like the ground itself is trying to warn them of something massive is getting closer. The T-Rex steps out of the fence, completely outside of human control. The attack is pure chaos. The dinosaur tears apart the vehicles while Grant desperately tries protecting Hammond's grandchildren. The park Hammond spent years building collapses in a matter of minutes. Jurassic Park was always built on one dangerous idea: The belief that nature could be controlled if enough money and technology weren't thrown at it. And for a while, that illusion actually worked. That's probably what makes the collapse feel so terrifying later on. Not because of the park was falling apart from the beginning, but because for a moment, it genuinely looked like it could work. Like humans had finally figured everything out. And once people start believing that, they stop questioning the system itself, because they stop asking whether maybe something this powerful was never supposed to exist in the first place. Because something looks more successful, people naturally trust it more, even when the warning signs are sitting right in front of them. And Jurassic Park is filled with the warning signs almost immediately. The workers dying in the opening scene, the nervous investors, the constant system failures during the tour. Even Malcolm keeps warning everyone that the park is unstable long before everything collapses. But nobody ever truly listens. Because the park is still functioning, the dinosaurs are still inside the fences, and Hammond's dream still looks alive. Until one person shuts the system down, and suddenly everybody realizes how fragile that entire thing actually was. Because underneath the technology and the security, Jurassic Park was still built on living creatures, not machines, not attractions, animals, and the moment control slips even a little, nature immediately starts pushing back. Meanwhile, Grant escapes into the jungle with Lex and Tim. At the beginning of the movie, Grant could barely tolerate children. Now he's forced into protecting them inside the most dangerous place on Earth. The three spend the night hiding high above the ground inside a giant tree while dinosaurs' calls echo through the jungle below. The next morning, Grant and the kids continue moving through the jungle, searching for a way back to the visitor center. And along the way, they discover something Hammond never expected. Dinosaurs are breeding. At first, Grant refuses to believe it. Every dinosaur in the park was engineered to be female. The system was designed that way on purpose. No breeding, no uncontrolled population, no surprises. But nature clearly never agreed to those rules. Earlier in the film, Hammond proudly explains that his scientists used frog DNA to fill the missing pieces inside the dinosaur code. What they didn't realize was that some species of frogs can naturally change sex depending on their environment. And suddenly Malcolm's warning starts becoming real. Life finds a way. That line isn't really about dinosaurs, it's about control, or maybe more specifically, the illusion of control. Because humans love building things that make them feel powerful. Systems, technology, companies, entire industries built around the idea that everything can be predicted and controlled as long as the right people are in charge. Jurassic Park probably felt exactly like that to Hammond. A perfectly designed system. Everything is monitored by computers. Every dinosaur behind electric fences. Every risk is already calculated, but life doesn't really stay predictable forever. And that's what makes this movie so unsettling. The moment nature stops following the rules humans created for it, everything begins falling apart almost instantly. Back at the visitor center, Ellie begins realizing the park is far worse than Hammond ever admitted. At one point, Hammond quietly talks about his first attraction, a flea circus. People came expecting magic even though there was actually nothing there. No real fleas, just an illusion. And maybe that's what Jurassic Park truly was from the beginning, a much bigger flea circus. Because the park was really never built on control. It was built on appearance of control. The illusion that humans had already mastered nature, when in reality, they were only containing it temporarily. Meanwhile, Ellie and Muldoon prepared to restore power to the park manually, which means leaving the safety of the compound and entering the maintenance sheds outside, deep in raptor territory. Muldoon tells Ellie to leave, and she does. Muldoon moves carefully through the jungle, then suddenly he spots one raptor directly ahead. Muldoon slowly aims the shotgun. Then another raptor appears from the side, and seconds later, the jungle goes silent. Ellie finally manages to restore the power, bringing the fences and the systems back online across the island. Danger is no longer outside the buildings, now it's inside. Grant, Lex, and Tim finally make it back to the visitor centers, exhausted, soaked, barely alive. Then raptors enter the building. The raptors move slowly, opening doors, watching, learning. Now they feel like predators reclaiming territory that humans were never supposed to be in control in the first place. The children hide inside the kitchen while the raptors search the room silently between metal counters and reflections on the floor. Grant manages to distract the raptors so long enough for everyone to escape back toward the control room. But even after everything that happened, Hammond still struggles to fully accept reality. That might be the most human part of the entire movie. Sometimes people spend so much time building on a dream that they ignore every warning sign telling them it's falling apart. The survivors realize there is only one option left: leave the island. The group finally escapes the island by helicopter while Hammond watches the jungle disappear. Nobody celebrates, nobody smiles, the dream is over. And as Grant looks at the birds flying beside the helicopter, the movie leaves us with one final reminder. Life keeps moving forward, always adapting, always changing, with or without human control. And maybe that's why Jurassic Park still feels important even decades later. Not because of the dinosaurs, but because underneath all of the action and show, the movie talks about something humans still struggle with today. It's that technology can solve every problem if enough money is poured into it. But Jurassic Park reminds us that some things in life are simply too powerful, too unpredictable, and too alive to ever fully control.